Hello. Welcome to Kindly Neurodivergent with Kay. This show is to spend quality time with each other, kindly discussing the similarities and wide range of differences we experience. The experiences we discuss on this show are for educational purposes only. Please do not substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Before we begin, I respectfully request that if you witness any pauses during this show, please continue watching. I'm composing a spontaneous comment or question, someone's processing their thoughts, in addition to repeating something that was unintelligible or misunderstood. It is natural discourse, and we can choose not to say anything while this is occurring. Today I have Chloe Langer and Christine Faressa with me. They are going to talk about the organization Sun, Moon, and Stars that supports families with children who have autism in the community. Christine Faressa is the founder of Sun, Moon, and Stars. She has served as an advocacy ambassador for Autism Speaks, has volunteered for dozens of committees, is currently serving on the Watertown Schools Board of Education along with the Board of Directors at Advance. Most recently, Christine has been nominated to a position on the Autism Spectrum Disorder Advisory Council (SDAC) for the state of Connecticut. She has a master's degree in business administration with a certificate in financial management for nonprofits. She has extensive sales and marketing experience with almost 3 decades in medical device sales. Christine Faressa is the Chloe Langer is a board member and supporter of Sun, Moon, and Stars. When she is not attending a Sun, Moon, and Stars event, or helping out at one, Chloe is an attorney at a small firm where she practices trust and estate planning, probate, and real estate law. Welcome, Christine and Chloe.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kayla.
Please introduce yourselves.
Well, hi, I'm Christine Faressa. I'm actually just beyond honored to be on this podcast. So we really, really appreciate the honor and just to be able to share our story and the work we do is just an incredible thing. So thank you, Kayla.
Yeah. And I can echo that sentiment. This is Chloe Langer. Not only am I a board member of Sun, Moon, and Stars, but I'm a participating parent. My son is autistic, and our family is very fortunate to be affiliated with the organization. Thank you so much for having us, Kayla. I, of course, know you through Little Britches. They're writing, and you're the OG of Little Britches, so I'm so glad to be here with you today.
One of them.
The important one, I'd say.
I've heard nothing but amazing things about Little Britches.
I am Kayla Ireland. I have spastic quadriplegia cerebral palsy. My other diagnoses include epilepsy, which is a seizure disorder, and dysphagia, a swallowing disorder, along with movement disorders such as spasticity. How'd organization come about?
So that's a really great story, how this organization came out. So my son Dominic, he's now going to be 14 in a few weeks, but when he was about 3.5, he was diagnosed with autism. And at that time, my husband Mark and I really knew nothing about autism. The only thing we really knew was that these poor kids had no friends. They were bullied. They weren't invited to birthday parties. And our concern was, is Dominic going to have friends? Is he going to have a community around him? You know, obviously there was so much we didn't know about autism at that point, but we found us struggling to go out to dinner often. and he just wouldn't sit still. He had some behaviors, and we really struggled. So one day I was trolling through the internet a bit, and I ran across a group called Autism Eats. They're a nonprofit. They were doing work up in the Massachusetts area. And basically, they were hosting these types of dinner parties for autistic individuals and their families, just to have a way to go out to dinner. They were doing it a little different, but I thought it was very cool. And I said, this is something that we could possibly look into doing. So my very good friend, Abby Nori Nelson, and I were chatting one day, and she said, "Oh, Chris, we can absolutely do something like that." So we decided to get some folks together at a local pizza restaurant. And we said, we can't be the only ones that were struggling to go out to eat. So we ended up having, oh my goodness, maybe 5 or 6 families join us that first one. And it was really a nice start. So then we realized in talking to these other parents that there really wasn't much out there around in this area, in the Watertown area, greater Watertown area, where there were things for families to do. Everything was sensory friendly, but you had to travel. Whether you were going to, Mystic Aquarium, the Norwalk Aquarium, Connecticut Science Center, which is all great, great places. They support our community, but there wasn't a lot in this area. So we started the supper club, Sun, Moon, and Star Supper Club. That was our first event that we did. And we just started looking at other things we could do to bring joy to families. Chloe, do you want to add anything to that? Because you were really with us since almost the beginning.
Yeah, well, from a parent perspective, walking into that pizza restaurant and immediately feeling like I could exhale as a mom, because it was instant community. And to Christine's point, it can be a lonely journey when you're just starting out with a diagnosis for your child. You're sort of overwhelmed with information about what services to get, right? It's all about the services and the medical attention, but there's no real path to finding community and social network. So that was what we were really struck by, that, our boy could be in the restaurant and he didn't have to sit still, and he could be parallel playing with some of the other kids running around. But it was instant community and instant, camaraderie with the other parents.
What is a true definition of sensory friendly?
Question.
Great question. So sensory friendly, meaning a lot of our kiddos have sensitivities, whether they can't have too many bright lights, or maybe it's an auditory thing where if things are too loud. So when you say sensory friendly, usually it's in a facility, a service organization, business where lights are lowered and they muffle or lower the noise, and if they're playing music for something or whatever it is, the sound system, everything is completely muted and lowered so it doesn't assault the senses. And generally speaking, they control capacity so that it's not overwhelming with, say a place holds 100 kids, maybe they'll only have 50. So our community isn't overwhelmed by so many people at one time. Anything else, Chloe? Did I miss anything?
It's a great question. And when we were starting out in our journey with Sun, Moon, and Stars in creating these events and partnerships, we started steering away, if you recall, Chris, from calling it sensory friendly and trying to focus more on the judgment-free element of it. Because you can never create or control a perfect environment for our kids.
Yes.
And at some point in time, they are going to have to learn how to exist in a world that maybe isn't going to yield to their needs. But we certainly could create an environment at Sun, Moon, and Stars that was judgment-free, So I think that was a distinction that we kind of learned early on. It's been very successful for our programming.
You know what?
Sensory integration is talked about cerebral palsy and movement disorders.
Oh, that's interesting.
Mm.
That is interesting. And one of, I was just saying, one of the phrases I've been using is sensory considerations. More so, just, to be a little more considerate. We do a really amazing event at Lake Quasi This will be our second year doing it. It's an autism-friendly autism awareness night. So to have sensory considerations, they don't have music on the rides. So everything is very muted, and we control capacity so it's not overwhelming. So those are kind of the considerations that we offer in an event. Or if a ride has too many lights and things, we just mute that a bit.
They always talk about motor planning, but not sensory.
That's interesting, Kayla. You should lend your voice to that, in terms of expanding the interpretation of it to include those in your community with your specific neurological difference. And, I think that's an important distinction.
Absolutely.
What were your experiences with any similar autism-focused events and/or groups?
That's a really wonderful question. And I will tie this into the fact that we've really grown exponentially over the last 2 to 3 years. We actually started a bit of a networking group. We call it Autism Moms Making It Happen. And I'm very close with other autism moms that have started 501c3 nonprofits. And there's a few of us around the state. We have a group of about 6 to 7 moms that have started these groups with the intention of, isn't it great to develop a different level of camaraderie and speak to each other about what it takes to run a nonprofit? We bounce ideas off of each other. But the broader idea was, how do we support each other in such a way? Because many of us are doing similar things, but we're all in different geographies. I have a very good friend that runs a group in Torrington, one that runs a group in Waterbury, one down on the shoreline in Brantford, one in New Canaan. My friend Linda runs a really nice group in Newtown. So we find ways to support one another. So, there is so much opportunity for our families out there, and we really try and share those opportunities in such a way that we're not competing against each other. That's the beauty of what we try and do, is really support each other in an amazing way. And, we all do very similar things, but in our own different way. I would say, Chloe, what would you say to add to that?
Yeah, I would say from the parent perspective, attending autism events, can sometimes be a one-off. As Chris mentioned, we have so many wonderful museums and, organizations in Connecticut that provide the judgment-free or sensory-friendly days. But you may go to the Connecticut Science Center and enjoy an afternoon and maybe connect with a parent and then never see them again, And so I think what the group has done and what Christine is just incredible at is keeping a really, user-friendly website, access on social media, sharing all of these other organizations, events, and activities so that there's more of a connected web of events happening and you become more locked into what's happening and you're more liable to meet other families. And, once you bump into them 2 or 3 times, they become part of your circle.
Absolutely.
Nonprofit work is hard but rewarding.
That's a very true statement, Kayla. Very true statement.
Why do you think there's still a large gap in these groups?
It's an interesting question, Kayla, because, it's where I think the gap comes down to capacity. Every one of us has capacity of scale. How many families can we, quote unquote, service? What are the facilities we're at? How many, per event, how many kiddos and their families can we have? So it really kind of depends on what the mission is, what the vision is, and what they're trying to do. because, some groups have locations and they have facilities. We run, like Chloe and I say this, we run lean and mean. We don't have an actual location. We love partnering with different organizations so that, when we have a jump event, we know we're going to Extreme Air. When we have a paint party, we know we're going to one of our local churches that helps us with different events. We do a wonderful job with the Railroad Museum of New England with our Autism Friendly Santa Express. Now that's been so successful that that's expanded to the Easter Bunny train and the pumpkin picking train. So it really, Chloe, capacity, would that be the best way to talk about gaps?
I would absolutely agree with that. It's been the most rewarding part of seeing this organization grow, but at times also the hardest part, right? Like we have to learn to double up on events. Now we've learned to kind of have blocks of time for families to cycle through, to be able to accommodate just larger, masses of people coming through, which is wonderful. But I think historically, the gap in this might be just knowledge and awareness. We're so fortunate to be at a time where social media is just ubiquitous. It's everywhere. Anybody with an iPhone can find one of our activities, right?
Even
And I think
with my podcast, it's word of mouth.
Yeah, exactly. Word of mouth. And that is really helpful to all of these organizations.
Episode 14. How are you different than other groups?
How are we different? I believe it comes down to focusing on your mission and the vision of what you're trying to do. Some groups, it depends on maybe the age groups who they cater to. We started with the littles and we're kind of expanding into the bigs, like more teenage years, just because my son is going to be 14 and some of I call them the OGs, to quote Chloe, the originals, they were with us since they were 6, 7, 8 years old. And now, they're getting larger, older, I should say, larger and older, to be honest. But, it's just, I think it comes down to what we're trying to do. And I think one of the things that we do well is building this community and really kind of trying to meet the families and the kids where they are. And over the years that we've done this, listen, we've made some mistakes. We've learned from our mistakes. We approach things differently. We might have different policies. But at the end of the day, we're here to try and serve our families the best way we can and provide opportunities. And we think we do that well. Chloe, what do you think, hon?
Yeah, I agree, of course, with all of that, and can just also say that as far as the group, it's really family oriented. So while many of the events and activities, of course, are catering to the autistic community, the parents, siblings, grandparents, caregivers, guardians are all there participating as well. This is not a drop your child off and leave. We're not at that point. Maybe one day we'll be able to get to that level. But this is very much a come to an event and engage to get, all of us as a family. So that's also, I think, a unique aspect of what we do.
One of the joys I have is when I hear families chatting with one another and realizing, oh, my child is at this school, my child is in that class with your child. There's other connections made. And when they see each other at different events, that's where this whole idea of our camaraderie comes in. And it's really nice to see those connections made where these kiddos play outside and see each other outside of our events and activities, because really that's what community comes down to, is building all these connections. And I think, as much as I, don't want to own it, but that was the whole purpose of Sun, Moon, and Stars, is to build a community around my son selfishly. And by default, here we are building a community around all of these incredible families and seeing the friendships form between parents and kids. It's just
You
extraordinary.
understand that
Honestly.
autism misconceptions are wrong.
Mm.
Do you want to take that,
You
Chloe?
understand that autism misconceptions are wrong.
So I think a misconception, if I'm understanding the question,
And you understand that autism misconceptions are wrong.
So there are a lot of misconceptions abounding around autism.
you rephrase the question, Kayla?
Mhm.
It's a comment.
Ah,
Uh,
yes.
You're right. And I'm
And you
sure,
understand that autism misconceptions are wrong.
yeah,
Mhm.
and I'm sure you experience it too with your condition. So many misconceptions, right? Yeah, I can only imagine. We're here to dispel all of those misconceptions.
That's true.
How'd you flourish into being a nonprofit organization?
So that is an interesting question. So the reason why we became a nonprofit is because we were doing really great with doing a support group every month, doing our supper club, and we were doing some holiday events. But I realized that one thing that was desperately needed, especially in this area, was a swim safety program. And I had taken my son to a few different ones, and they just really didn't work out, and it really wasn't working. So we ended up looking into the fact that there had to be a better way. It took Chloe, what do you say, 6, 7 months to kind of get all the pieces together.
Yep.
And I realized because at that point we weren't a nonprofit, so any type of fundraising we did was geared towards Autism Speaks. We supported that organization. I was an autism advocacy ambassador with them, and I realized, my Lord, if I'm going to run a swim program, which costs money, all the things, we would have to start fundraising for ourselves, and that was the impetus to become a nonprofit, a 501c3. And I will tell you, it was not what I expected. A lot more work than I expected, but where we were then to where we are now is light years ahead in all the things that we're actually doing. And our Starfish Swim Club swim program has been a resounding success. And I think at this point, we've graduated over 25 kids from the program. We have 12 kids in the program now that are going through, and we probably have like 30 kids on our wait list. So, which is just one piece of what we do, but a very important piece to these families. So yeah, that was the impetus for it. Had I known back then, right, Chloe?
Exactly. Well, and I'll just add too, you reminded me that, so much of the fundraising is focused on defraying the cost of a lot of these events and activities for the families. That's a huge aspect of what we do, just keeping costs down, providing the fun and the education, but also recognizing that people need help.
Yeah, I mean, we subsidize 75 to 80%, if not more, of every single event that we do. So we keep costs very affordable for families.
How does that swim lessons work?
So it's a very unique concept. Thank you for asking that question. So our swim program, what we do is we have blocks of time. They're half-hour blocks of time, and it kind of looks like a group swim because we have instructors. So anytime in the pool, we'll have 3 to 4 kids in the pool at one time with a one-to-one instructor. And our instructors are swim angelfish trained. They have experience working with the special education, SPED community and they have a lot of experience. So it's a one-to-one swim, almost like a private swim, but in a group setting. So we do 4 weeks on, 2 weeks off, 4 weeks on, 2 weeks off, and we try and maintain as much consistency as possible, Kayla, for these kids. And some of our kiddos, they learn in 2 to 3 sessions, some 6 sessions or more, and some a little bit more than that. So they all kind of go at their own pace, and we meet them at their own pace. And for some of the kiddos who I never thought they would learn how to swim, to see them like fish in the water now, it's pretty cool. I'm not going to lie. So it's a really great program.
Yeah, and I'll just add that that's in partnership with Watertown Parks and Rec, and which has streamlined the registration process for us, allowing us to use the high school pool. Again, broadening this sense of community, where giving back to the community, but also expanding the community. And they're so supportive of everything we do.
I love our teamwork, Chloe.
Yes. Teamwork.
What does that community mean to them if one-on-one?
So you're talking about the swim lessons are one-to-one. Yeah. So in the pool, the kids are working with one instructor at a time during one lesson, but the following week they might be working with another instructor. So it is configured like a group setting, like a group swim, only because we have 4 kids in the pool at one time, but we also have 4 like individual instructors with them. So it's not like a private lesson because it's more than one kid in the pool at a time, but it's just very unique. I mean, how else would you explain it, Chloe?
Yeah,
it's just a unique thing.
It's I think that, for the kids too, it's sort of is extraordinary because it's a big sort of high school pool, which can be echoey and it can be a little intimidating, especially for the younger kids to walk into that pool setting. But these instructors are absolutely amazing. They're trained to work with our children. And so they just sometimes have to take, a whole lesson warming up to the child. And maybe the child that day is only going to get, their feet in the water. But the remarkable thing is that by the end, that child is graduating and either swimming the length of the pool or swimming the width of the pool, or they've learned remarkable water safety skills. And that is just brilliant to see.
Are they engaged with each other?
To some extent, I think. Yeah.
Okay.
If you've got kids who are motivated to engage with, one of the other children in the pool, sometimes they'll do like the 2 instructors will work with the 2 children, and maybe they'll both, toss a ring and have to, grab the ring together, that kind of thing. So there is some social interaction if the children are open to it.
Many of the kids, Kayla, come through our events and activities as well. So they see kids they know, which is nice. But one of the things we started doing about 2 years ago or so is we instituted a family swim time. So, in the 2 weeks in between lessons, we'll have one afternoon for 2 hours where the kiddos who have graduated can come back into the pool. But also the kids that are currently in the program, as long as they have an adult with them, they can go in the water as well. So there is some time for socialization and even just having like that family time in the pool. It's really great. The kids love it.
What happens if they regress and need to do it again?
Knock on wood, that hasn't happened yet. But when they come back for the family swim and stuff, it seems like, everyone seems to still stay in progression. In reality, what I end up hearing is, oh my God, Chris, we went on vacation, or we were in this pool or that pool, and it's amazing to see the kids really go. And I will say, because it's not a quick thing that they learn, this isn't just like a 6 to 8 week and they're done. They're spending a lot of time learning. And I have to say, it's almost for them in this situation, like a bit of a muscle memory. It's sticking. It's really sticking because they all love to swim. It's just crazy.
I totally understand that.
Hmm.
How do participants flourish?
How they flourish, it's almost like by default. By coming to our many events and activities, they do make friendships. They do see kids, and they hang out and spend time. And there's a lot of commonality with these kiddos, which is very cool to see that happen. But by default, they're also learning some social skills along the way. Whether, we're having our supper club and, oh, this is how we sit and behave in a restaurant. And, we can practice these things without, if they're having a moment, it's okay. That doesn't matter. But, they're learning how to behave. Or, we do sensory friendly movies or sensory accommodating movies at the Strand Theater in Seymour. So we've just started that partnership. And, but it's nice to see when some of these kiddos have gone to the movies for the first time, it's, even though it's accommodating, they're still getting the sense of this is what it's like to go to the movies. So, or if they're going to see Santa Claus at one of our events, it's almost saying like, oh, now I kind of know what to expect. And oh, this isn't really scary. So I can possibly, move towards doing something in a neurotypical environment that they may have been afraid to do, which is actually a really cool thing when I hear that. Oh, we were able to go do this, we're able to go do that because of some of the things we've done to kind of give them those baby steps, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think just I'll add to that, not to make this a monetary thing, but I think that's what also makes it a little more forgiving for parents, where maybe they're going to be more willing to take a stab at attending one of our movie events because it's not a hugely expensive cost if the child can only cross the threshold into the theater and then can't handle it. No judgment there. Other parents have your back. There's usually a way to work through it, however long it takes for that child to engage. And that's a success.
Absolutely. We had an event, Kayla, on Sunday. We showed Toy Story at the Strand, which is always a classic movie. And there were quite a few kiddos. That was their first movie. And there were a few that they had trouble sitting still. And because, it's a big theater, and for some reason, there's a few of them that just wanted to get on the stage. It was pretty nuts. But like those few that like to move, they did end up leaving a little bit early. And the parents, I said, you don't have to leave. You can stay. They're like, no, we lasted an hour. This was our first movie. This is a win for us. We're thrilled we can't do the next one. So that's a big deal,
Do you think the participants help other?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
I would say.
the kids are getting old enough now. And many of them are developing social skills to be perceptive of the world around them. And they see their friends, doing an activity and it makes them want to engage. I'm thinking of our adaptive basketball program, Chris, that's, happening right now. And, seeing these kids kind of encourage each other where it would look different in a neurotypical basketball program.
Absolutely.
What events do you do now?
Oh, girl, we have a lot of events that we do. So we do many events on the regular. So we have supper club. We do every other month. We do monthly support group meetings. We have a monthly Lego club that we do. We have an art club that we do. Quarterly, we like to do, we have a jump event that we do. And actually, we've partnered for that event with another organization called the Social Chase. So we have the first hour is for the littles up to age like 15. And then the next hour is 16 and over. And my friend Helen runs a great organization. It's for young adults. So it's a really nice way to bridge two organizations. So we do paint parties. We started doing those a couple years ago. Those are quarterly. We love the Strand Theater. We do all kinds of holiday events, whether it's letters to Santa. We do a great indoor trunk or treat that we do as well. We do pumpkin picking. We like to do artsy stuff, right, Chloe? We do a lot of
Yep.
artsy stuff. So,
Yep. And then you've got, we've got the adaptive athletic programs too,
sure.
soccer and swim, of course, the swim lessons and basketball and softball. You took a stab at softball this past year.
We're going to try again in a few weeks. We're going to try that one again. So it's in it. And honestly, we try and do different things too, like summertime, outdoorsy things. We work with Flanders Nature Center in Bethlehem. We work with them to do some outdoor activities. And we really enjoy partnering with other groups. I mean, that's a big deal for us. And it just builds this community, and it helps everybody. And it actually, for our friends, our community, in our group, it gives them access to other experiences they may not have done before, which I think is awesome. We started a partnership last year with a group called Open Doors Outdoors, and they're a veteran-based organization where they do outdoor activities, hiking, UTV rides for veterans with like PTSD, and they realized that there was a benefit to these rides for autistic individuals who really like this type of stimulation, this vibration therapy. So we've done a couple events with them, and we're going to partner to do a larger event with them in June, just through word of mouth and just meeting phenomenal people, which is awesome.
I tried soccer and Girl Scouts.
Oh, nice. Very nice. Were you a brownie? Is that where you start? Is it brownie first, then Girl Scouts?
Well, now it's all scouts, I think, right?
Oh, really? Okay. Well, when I'm dating myself, but when I was younger, it was brownie first.
Do you want to provide sibling-focused support groups and/or events?
We've touched on that a little bit. Most of the things we do, siblings are included unless it's really strict capacity, but 9 times out of 10, siblings are included in everything we do, because it's family focus. For sibling direct, like a sib shop or like those types of supports, it's kind of a capacity issue right now. We've kind of chatted about it a little bit, but nothing's come to fruition. And I think you have to find the right partnership to do something like that. Would you agree, Chloe?
Yeah, absolutely. I think too, a lot of what we do is sort of community led. We'll poll our core families, we call them, and say, what would you like to see? What would work for your family? And I think as the kids get older and maybe the siblings feel like they need to have a place to be able to talk it out or to do their own thing, just like we've done dad's night out instead of mom's night out, similar little offshoots here, for the respite aspect that may come naturally, it may organically happen as our kids age. But, I'm a good example. Our family, we have an autistic son and then a neurotypical son. And our younger son, the neurotypical one, has been dragged to every therapy, every doctor's appointment. Your sisters can attest to this, right, Kayla? For their whole life and for his whole life. And so when we say, oh, we're going to a sun, moon, and stars activity, it's like, oh, hey, this is something fun for me too, So it's a win-win.
Not now, but yes. Do you offer respite so parents, guardians, and/or caregivers can participate?
So what we normally do is, we do our support group meetings once a month, and that's for parents only. So at those events, I spoil my parents. We provide food, drink, all the stuff. We do it at a local little shop called Itty Bitty Cookie here in Watertown. Delicious cookies and drinks and coffees and things. So that's a nice way for the community to get together. So whether I'm bringing in like an educational speaker or a resource person, or we're just doing some mindfulness crafting and just chilling. We do that with purpose. So we want the parents to connect, which is really great. We've done for the last few years, twice a year, we do a mom's night out around Mother's Day. We do it at Hawk Ridge Winery, and we also do a holiday mom's night out. And at the same place, we love Hawk Ridge Winery. There have been phenomenal partners to us. So that's a way to get the moms out to just, eat, craft, drink, whatever it is, and just have a nice night. We did do a dad's night out, and we're looking to this year. I'm working with my husband to help coordinate some things. He threw out a few ideas, so it's a matter of seeing what might work, what might not work. But we love doing stuff for the parents as well. I mean, the kiddos get spoiled, but the parents need a little bit of time for themselves too.
What if they don't have the coverage?
Do you mean, go ahead, Chloe.
Well, yeah. So, I know what you mean, Kayla, in terms of respite. Do we provide that? So we're not there yet where we are a drop-off situation, so parents can go enjoy an evening out. Um, you know, our house is a good example where we're a two-parent household. So fortunately, I can say to my husband, I'm going to mom's night out. You can take care of the boys tonight. But one day, when we just had our annual meeting, and when we talk about aspirational goals for the organization, included in that is maybe one day, having a location, and maybe one day, we would be able to provide, or at least partner with someone to provide respite services. But we're not quite there because we sort of fit squarely in the fun events and activities for the family, we've sort of crafted that space really well. We're not in the providing therapeutic space. But never say never, maybe.
Well said. Thank you.
And with my family, it is hard sometimes to coordinate schedules.
It is.
Absolutely. We have a lot of, grandparents sometimes attending events,
Yes.
so to allow the parents to go out and they handle the kiddos at some of our events. So you're right. That is, I think, in any situation, any family situation with schedules all over the place.
I think one of the things that, we've done a few times is, talking about, babysitting in the special needs community is a very precious commodity. And we are lucky to a degree. I know myself, and my husband, we have a few kiddos who know Dominic very well that will stay with him. And, he's getting a little older to say babysitter, so they'll hang out with him for the night, but, for us, it's worked out well. So I think, one of the things that we like to do in building this community, and when we do our sports, we work with a lot of buddies, and they're high school kids who, they're maybe part of unified sports, maybe part of best buddies. They're part of those particular sports teams, but they kind of get to know our kiddos. So there's been a few situations where we've talked to some of those kids about helping out in that aspect here and there. But it's a precious thing to trust your special needs child with a babysitter that's not family. So, but by parents chatting and talking amongst one another, even sometimes having folks that maybe was your behavioral tech or BCBA, someone looking for a little bit of extra, side money, that's something to also, we chat about that a bit here and there. So there are ways to do it, but sometimes it's simply not that easy, if that makes sense. So,
like horseback riding high school volunteers.
Exactly, Kayla. That's a exact perfect analogy. Both very special programs because it attracts a certain kind of individual, right? With Little Britches, a person who loves animals as well as a delicate community of riders.
Yeah. That is valid. Most of the kiddos come back year to year, and for us, when we had a few graduate last year, that I still shed a little tear because of the special relationships they have with our kiddos. And they get to know them very well, and it's funny. I don't want to say the word handle them, but they can handle them, which is nice to see.
Yep, you can say that.
They have a delicate touch. They can handle
Yeah.
them a bit, so it's really cool to see.
Thank you, Chloe and Christine, for doing this with me. It was great to have you on. Please share this talk show with your family, friends, and colleagues. Everyone watching, don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, and share on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube.